Do you like teenage girls?
When you say teenage, how old are we talking?
Girls who are teenagers.
Rolex on your wrist, a plain giant.
For someone to come home with me, all you have to do is be quit playing. I didn't do this stuff. But just use your common sense. This is not me, y'all. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. This is not about music.
What up and welcome back. It's your girl Jane, the plainest Jane, and we got some syrup to get into. I know it's late / early in the morning. It's literally 2:30 in the morning, but there's so much research that I've done and there's so much information that I need to get out to you to make sure that I'm on schedule and I don't have to aggregate information over the weekend. So come on in, hit thumbs up on the bus. If I'm helping get you through your shift, put a number 8 in the chat, okay? If I'm giving you something to do, if you're wide awoke, and you're happy that myself and my coworker done went live, let me know in the chat. Drop some pancakes after you hit thumbs up, but also consider subscribing for more R. Kelly content, daily trial coverage, and all other things Black news and celebrity entertainment, okay? Also, if you want to see a cat boss me around and run the show, right? If you want to see who really runs my household, subscribe. There will be more of this this fella here. I'm sure there'll be plenty more times where he almost bites my finger off as well. Come on, get down. We got too much to do for you to play around. Leo, get down. Down. Thank you. All right. I hope y'all have had an amazing day. TGIF, okay, or TGIS. Let's get right into it. I've got way too much to talk about to kind of spend a whole bunch of time lollygagging. We know that we're covering the R. Kelly trial. Today, we're covering day 14 in R. Kelly's trial, as you read the title. So as I talk about day 14, I'm going to say today and be speaking in present tense as if it's still day 14, excuse me, okay? So in today's video, we know R. Kelly is standing trial in Chicago. Really ironic considering how he was indicted in 2002. He was acquitted in 2008 right here in Chicago. But here he is back again facing these charges for obstruction of justice because he was acquitted, but that was because he had help from his ensemble, of people who rock with him and who were willing to help him get away with these things. So in today's video, we're going to be going over the bickering between Barry Hankerson and R. Kelly as their relationship started to sour. There's some finger pointing going on here as well. Blame game directed towards Sparkle, actually, right? We thought we were kind of like past that a little bit, but it comes back around to the blame game towards her, right? Tiffany Hawkins does come up, and if you don't know the significance of who Tiffany Hawkins is, I know R. Kelly has a plethora of accusers, right? Tiffany Hawkins is one of many, and she was the first person to actually make a public claim that R. Kelly had inappropriate intimate relations with her when she was underage. Okay. Demetrius Smith is coming up again. He came up a lot in the New York trial, but we're down in Chicago now. And Demetrius Smith is R. Kelly's former tour manager. He comes up, and then McDavid begins his testimony on the stand on today, which would be day 14 as well. So we've got a lot of things that we need to get into. I've got lives that I want to do after this. I'm hoping I have enough energy to do another live after this, but we gonna see, okay? Because I've got all the research done. It's just a matter of me getting the information out, okay? So make sure you hit thumbs up, have a seat on the bus, get comfortable, okay? Roll your windows down, put your arm out the window, just sit back and enjoy the breeze, and let me take you through the R. Kelly trial, okay? I know I always tell y'all hit thumbs up, but just do it. The Cash App is on the screen. If you feel the need that you want to do a little something more than donating the thumbs up, feel free to donate monetarily to the channel. It's appreciated, but it's certainly not required. Okay, you are more than welcome to send a Cash App, a super chat, or a super thanks. But shout out to everybody in the live chat, and let's get ready for takeoff, Shall we?
The plainest Jane. This is one of my favorite comments here. She says, I loves me some black, and she said, loves me some black news. She says, is it just me, or does anyone else get tired of seeing people that don't look like them delivering info about them day in and day out?
All right, now anytime we're covering R. Kelly and his ridiculous crimes over the course of nearly 30 years, I've got to give you a trigger warning. We know what R. Kelly is known for beside his music, and that always requires a trigger warning if we're mentioning it in passing or explicitly. But real quick, I hope you're feeling okay. Hopefully your invisible problems are handled. If your mental health isn't okay, click off of this video and take care of you. I'll see you next time, or you can catch the replay. Okay, shout out to my new subscribers. We're almost at 19,000. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. And of course, before I get into breaking down today's topics and viral events, make sure you subscribe, okay, and thumbs up or down. Look, either way, I appreciate it. But make sure you think critically and independently, regardless of what you hear from me or anybody else. So as we get into it, I don't want you to forget that I'm always going to give you a quite detailed, condensed synopsis. There are 8+ hours spent in court each and every day. I'm obviously not going over every word. I'm giving you a really lengthy, precise, and detailed summary, if you will. If you are interested in the transcripts, every single word that's said in that courtroom, day to day, I'm talking before the jury comes in and before the jury leaves, check out Atmos Love Zone. It is the very first link down below in the description box. You'll see the very first thing that's blue. It'll say Atmos Love Zone. Click on that channel and support that brother. Okay, subscribe to his channel. Like I said, and it's an amazing reenactment of the transcripts, different voices. It's theatric, and there's even a comedic aspect to it because they're literally acting it out. They get into character, and it's really amazing. So when you take a visit over to support and subscribe to Atmos, make sure you tell them Jane sent you and drop some pancakes in the chat. Okay. I just want to remind everyone that the defense they still have not denied that it's R. Kelly on the tape, because they can't. It's clearly him. Instead, they focused on dirtying up all of the witnesses. We know the prosecution has rested their case. We left off yesterday with day 13. So it's time to go ahead and get into it. Of course, we get into what's going on before the jury comes in. Was there any paperwork, any motions shuffled overnight before everyone got back into the courtroom? And let's go into this before we get into the testimony on the stand. So day 14 was technically Tuesday, right? It was the day after Labor Day, right? September 7th. And the courts were already closed on Monday for the holiday. Of course, the jury and everyone, trial was set to resume on Tuesday. However, Monday night, there was this strange announcement that was like, hey, we're having technical difficulties. The courthouse is closed. And so the irony with the courthouse being closed on Tuesday when it was supposed to be open, right, thus suspending the trial, was Jim DeRogatis was supposed to testify that day, right? But the courthouse was closed. So there was a motion put in. And when they got to court, on Wednesday, right? Day 14 was supposed to be Tuesday. So when they got to court on Wednesday, after the unexpected closing, on the day Jim was supposed to testify, right, there's a motion that literally says, hey, Jim feels like he shouldn't have to testify. Like, that's what it is. And it's interesting, right? Some people think that there's something going on there. Some people think it was planned and all this other stuff, right? Take your shot in the dark at why this happened, right? If you don't know who Jim DeRogatis is, he is the reporter who anonymously received the tape, right? The infamous tape that had R. Kelly having that illicit, intimate relationship with a then 14-year-old Reshona Landfair. Okay, so he worked for the Sun Times at the time. He anonymously received this tape in 2002, but he submitted the last-minute paperwork. Tuesday, the day he was supposed to testify, he was subpoenaed to testify, specifically subpoenaed by McDavid, because again, R. Kelly's not on trial by himself. He's got 2 other co-defendants. And, like I said, what ended up happened was this was granted, right? So he ended up not having to testify, and we're going to get into that. So he typically would have been testifying. This motion wasn't handed in until Tuesday, after the time he was supposed to testify. So he got out of it. A lot of people found it to be That's interesting. Have at it if you will. Feel free to take a screenshot and zoom in. To all of my channel members who are backstage, you've had access to this document. I posted this about like 4 days ago backstage when this stuff happened. Okay. So my channel members, y'all are up to speed and y'all are even ahead of the game because there are more documents I placed back there that we won't be getting into yet. However, I did want to let you know that this motion did shuffle through. It shuffled past and it did successfully get this reporter who was subpoenaed. Now, mind you, this is a reporter who wrote a book. I mean, he was, an investigative journalist, I would even say, because he had been following this story for years, wrote a book about this story, did interviews with different accusers and different witnesses and moving parts in the situation. Very detailed book. And so some of the book actually comes up in some of the later coverage. I prepared 3 different shows for y'all today. Not sure if I'm going to get through all of them in this sitting. However, one of the 3 shows I got together today, part of the book does come up and we're going to go over that. And it's juicy to say the least. Right. And so to get past this motion. Okay. And again, I want you to take your stab in the dark as to, do you think he didn't want to testify because he didn't want to implicate anybody there? Is he scared of the ramifications? Any and all thoughts down below. I do have some thoughts about it, but I don't want to spend the entire beginning of this video getting into that. Right. So again, Wednesday comes, right? Day 14. So let's just go ahead and say Wednesday is today. McDavid's attorney, because it's the defense's turn to present their side of the case. And McDavid's attorneys, right? Because Jim is there, but he's waiting for the judge to rule him in or out of this trial. Hey, I was subpoenaed, I'm here, but here's my motion because I don't think that I should have to testify for news gathering purposes and all of the stuff that you can see back here. Okay. And so McDavid's attorney is arguing that it's a chain of custody issue. Right. It goes from this anonymous reporter. That's how the media found out. And then it went to police. And McDavid is kind of like, oh, let me poke holes in the chain of custody. The judge does not agree. Right. With McDavid's attorney, who feels like, I feel like Jim, this reporter who received this stuff, I feel like he should have to testify. And we only need him to verify that the tape that he received anonymously in 2002 is the same tape that is in court here today. They wanted him to verify that. The judge actually said that it would serve no purpose for Jim to testify. It's, defense is like, hey, it's small, but it's important. It's going to, this could help create reasonable doubt in the government's case, right? And what Jim ends up saying, essentially, just to summarize his motion, is that him taking the stand would be discouraging further news gathering that kind of leads to trials like this. And he also said that there would be nothing that he needs to testify about, because he said anything that I've ever found out about this situation, I've wrote about it. I've published it. What could you possibly want me to say on the stand that I haven't said since 2002, over the course of 20 years, and in my tell-all book about this, because he's been researching it for so long, right? And so, like I said, the judge grants Jim DeRogatis his motion to quash is the legal terminology, to quash the appearance in court. So again, the judge says, I don't see any basis for him to testify, saying that the veracity of the tape and its custody chain, it can be established through other witnesses. At what point it kind of was earlier in the trial. So what Jim says in response to kind of getting off the hook from having to testify for or about this, he says, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for the First Amendment. Okay. And that's that, right? Not to mention how later on in that day, Jim goes and tweets that online. He says, thank goodness for the First Amendment on Twitter. R. Kelly's attorney finds him on Twitter and was like, you mean the Fifth Amendment, right? Just a mess. Because remember, I went over how R. Kelly's attorney, Jennifer Bonjean, is not even supposed to be utilizing social media to talk about the trial in any capacity. But she continues to do it day by day. That's a whole nother story. After the judge goes ahead and rules out the reporter who received this tape anonymously back in 2002, the attorneys are still, arguing over different motions prior to bringing the jury in. The defense are petitioning the judge to bar the prosecution from bringing up several lawsuits against R. Kelly, specifically a lawsuit brought by a woman named Tiffany Hawkins. Remember, I was talking about that in the intro. Tiffany Hawkins is the first woman to go public, stating that R. Kelly had inappropriately touched her and had some intimate relations with her while she was a minor. Okay, so you've got R. Kelly's attorney, or just the defense in general, trying to bar testimony that has anything to do with Tiffany Hawkins. R. Kelly's attorney says that the lawsuits would produce a mountain of prejudicial information, right? Particularly as they contain information that could pit R. Kelly against his current co-defendant, McDavid. The judge says that he'll rule on the individual lawsuits and if they are or are not relevant, whether they'll be permitted or not, as they come up in trial. He's not just going to bar, word or testimony about all those lawsuits. And to be quite frank, those lawsuits are very relevant to this case because you have R. Kelly's co-defendants who were his employees, managers, accountants, whatever the case is, assistants, stating that they didn't know that R. Kelly had these sexual abuse allegations against him. And how is that when you were helping R. Kelly settle these lawsuits about the very same, if that makes sense? So they are relevant, right? With what these people have to say. I see Benz became a member for 2 months. So she was already a member. Thank you so much, Benz. I appreciate you. And then there is a super sticker for $1.99. Thank you so much. I appreciate all your support. And look, if you ain't got $1 or $2, just donate for free and hit the thumbs up, okay? So the judge also grants a motion to release the passport of R. Kelly's co-defendant, Milton Brown, to his attorney, and then calls for the jury to be called in. So that's some housekeeping. Again, when I'm covering the trial, I go over, there are some very important things that transpire before the jury is even called in, before testimony begins, okay? So that's that, right? And so let me see. The judge will rule later on whether McDavid can testify about more of the topics that R. Kelly's attorneys want to bar. For now, he did say, though, that anything about getting shots to control R. Kelly's sexual impulses are probably off limits. My. I wonder what that's about. As a matter of fact, I'll show you these documents, and I'm probably just going to end up showing you these in another video when they become extremely relevant as well. But if you're a channel member backstage, I think it was like 3 or 4 days ago, I'll let you know that R. Kelly's attorney, they were trying to bar information about R. Kelly literally getting shots to control his sexual urges because they felt like he had a medical issue that shots could cure. So let's just take a quick look at this document right here, okay? And I'll show you the other half of the document in the next video, where it's also relevant as well. All testimony related to claims lodged formally or informally against R. Kelly for sexual misconduct or harassment. Now, this trial is about him and his homies literally obstructing justice for sexual misconduct, but they don't want any information, whether it be formally or informally, about sexual misconduct, right? It's about, right, obstruction of justice pertaining to his conduct, right? And his pattern over the years, because this isn't an isolated incident for Robert Sylvester Kelly. However, his defense is very audacious in thinking that the courts were really going to dismiss or not allow any information in the court as it pertains to R. Kelly's sexual misconduct or harassment. The defense is also trying to bar any information pertaining to R. Kelly's alleged relationships with any other woman that aren't named in the indictment or directly relevant to the instant charges. They also want to bar all matters related to the Florida criminal investigation regarding R. Kelly's alleged possession of child pornography, charges that were dismissed after all evidence was suppressed. All right. Any and all allegations, lawsuits, or claims made by R. Kelly's employees against him. How do y'all think that none of this is going to come up? How do you think that none of this is relevant? Right? Because if R. Kelly's employees are stating that there was some sort of misconduct or something that he was doing wrong, that could go into the obstruction of justice. Like that. Okay. All right. They also want to bar testimony related to McDavid taking R. Kelly to get injections. That's the part you need to pay attention to. Look at that second to bottom last bullet. They want to bar testimony related to McDavid taking R. Kelly to get injections or any treatment to curb his sexual appetite. Now make it make sense. Make that make sense. Child, you out here getting shots to Kurt. You out here getting the opposite of Viagra, child. They also want to borrow testimony related to any other medical diagnosis of R. Kelly. Baby. Meet me at the bush and let's continue.
It was gone.
Let me just go in the bush and weep. Let me just go in the bush and weep. I just have to go in the bush and weep. Really. I don't understand. I swear to God, I don't understand.
Shout out to Soldier Girl. I see that you boosted up your membership for 4 months and says, I'm enjoying your commentary, Jane. Thank you so much. I enjoy your viewership, your support, and I definitely enjoy you being a channel member for some time now. So thank you so much. I wish I could bring it on the screen, but for some reason, when people increase their membership by a certain amount of months, I can't get it and pull it up on my StreamYard, but I can see it on my phone. So thank you. And I don't want you to feel ignored. Now let's continue. Y'all know I'm moving swiftly and professionally through this thing. Usually I tell you what happened yesterday, but look, do your due diligence, read yesterday's title, watch yesterday's video, and go on about your business. Let's get into today, which would happened day 14 of R. Kelly's trial. Boom. So as we get started, the first person to take the stand was actually someone who was supposed to be testifying remotely from Nevada, but they were having some extreme technical difficulties on both ends between the courthouse and that person. There was some feedback. It was a really awkward moment. So they moved past that person to get to the next person to get the technical difficulties figured out and then to bring that person virtually on the stand. Okay. So now we're getting into another Homeland Security agent, child. I told you yesterday, I'm so tired of these Homeland Security agents on the trial, mainly because it's boring. I understand that they need to dot all their I's and cross all their T's, but it'd be real boring listening to what they talking about, right? Because all they talking about is dates and papers and a lot of the stuff we've already heard. But nonetheless, this Homeland Security agent under direct examination, the first person to technically take the stand on day 14 of R. Kelly's trial, this federal agent who testified, they actually testified earlier in the trial for the prosecution. Now, R. Kelly's attorney, Jennifer Bongine, they actually wanted to ask some follow-up questions to re-examine their participation in R. Kelly's Illinois state trial proceedings from 2002 to 2008. Okay? So R. Kelly's attorney begins to establish that the Homeland Security agent doesn't have any documentation, that they do not have any documentation of an interview with an R. Kelly accuser named Tracy, right? In the Cooks County, like original files, okay? And so the state's attorney, right? The Cooks County state's attorney's original files. And so the Homeland Security agent says that she knows of no documents in that case in which R. Kelly's accuser that went by the pseudonym Tracy, because it's not a real name, it's a pseudonym. They confirmed that they don't know of any documents. And so what R. Kelly's attorney is trying to do is again, discredit the victim. They can't say it wasn't R. Kelly on the tape with a minor. All they have is to discredit the victims and say this victim said that they were 17, but they were really 16. So Bongine, her only defense is to point out the year differences, the 8 months differences in the testimony and what the presumed facts are. Okay. And so that's that. The Homeland Security agent says she knows of no documents in the case in which R. Kelly accuser Tracy testified that she participated in a threesome with R. Kelly and a 14-year-old Reshona, right? So you had R. Kelly doing what he did with Reshona alone, which was clear and evident on the tape. Then you had Tracy, who also said that she had a threesome with Reshona, who was a minor at that time, and Robert. And so this does seem like a way for R. Kelly's attorney to attack Tracy's credibility on this point without having to call the former Cook County prosecutors, okay, on the prior R. Kelly case. So they indicated that the defense definitely stated or indicated that they were going to call the former Cook County prosecutor onto the stand. But that might not have been too good for them, right? They're just like, are there any documents? No documents. Cool. So it didn't happen. But if they had called the prosecutor, the former prosecutor, that wouldn't have been their testimony. Not to mention that former prosecutor is actually now a judge. So that would have definitely been interesting, to say the least. Okay. So we get into the next person on the stand, because again, they're just going through dates and paperwork and spending a whole bunch of time on Tracy, going over a year's, difference. Okay. So now we get into the next person on the stand, who is a Marta Johansson. Okay. Marta Johansson. You know what? That name really makes me think of Dateline, Late at Night. You remember Chris Hansen when he used to walk in them houses with them people who was trying to sleep with the kids offline? And that's where the whole Booty Warrior skit came from. Anyway, that's where I went. Johansson, Chris Hansen. The Booty Warrior said, I know your name is Chris Hansen, but I call you Chris Hansen. Okay, back to business. So Marta Johansson is on the stand now, right? On behalf of the defense. Again, the prosecution has rested. It's the defense's chance to prove their side of things, right? And shout out to Ivy in the chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming through. That does mean a lot. You supporting the channel, Ivy. Appreciate you. So Marta Johansson actually used to work for we've been talking about the people who are no longer with us, like no longer on earth, who were a part of R. Kelly's camp, right? R. Kelly had a private investigator who was actually a private investigator, a celebrity private investigator. His name was Jack Palladino. He's deceased. Suspicious circumstances, absolutely. But Marta Johansson used to work for this private investigator. And so McDavid's attorneys actually, they want her to authenticate some business records from the time that Palladino worked for R. Kelly, this really, famous investigator that worked for Robert, right? So McDavid's attorney want the records and evidence to paint the prosecution witness Charles Freeman, aka the tape collector, aka Showtime. McDavid's attorney want these records to paint Charles Freeman in a negative light and to try to show that McDavid wasn't involved in some of these meetings. Okay. So, because McDavid is trying to act like, look, I didn't know anything about him sleeping with kids. I didn't know anything about him actually doing it. McDavid's story is, oh, I thought they were allegations. I thought all the girls were money hungry. I didn't think it was true. Right. So I wasn't in this meeting, that meeting. That's the tone of his testimony. Okay. And so now Johansson on the stand says that she worked for Palladino's company, Palladino and Sutherland was the name of it, for over 40 years. Okay. From 1980 until last year when Palladino actually passed away. Okay. And so she says she worked as an office admin there. And she says, I was answering phones and I was keeping track of emails, quote, on the stand. So Johansson also says that they helped to maintain the client files, including the file for R. Kelly. Okay. So now the defense asked Johansson to look over several records presented to her, confirming that they're true and accurate copies of the originals. So the defense is bringing her attention to one record specifically, which is an invoice. Okay. So this invoice is an invoice to McDavid, right? R. Kelly's manager, or former manager, who was on trial with him, right? It's an invoice to McDavid from Palladino, the dead private investigator, right? Invoice from McDavid to Palladino that refers to a conference call regarding Freeman extortion, right? Because again, they want to paint him like an extortionist. Freeman says some tapes fell into my hands, or no, basically what Freeman said was, R. Kelly hired me to get these tapes back because he was afraid that they were out. The defense is saying, no, he was an extortionist. He wasn't hired to get the tapes back, right? R. Kelly didn't call him and say, hey, help me get these tapes back. He called R. Kelly and said, let me get some money, which is extortion, right? And so this was a list of Kansas City encounters apparently related to Freeman, right? This invoice. So this conference call regarding extortion, okay, so that's how they're trying to paint him. And Freeman was definitely a trip on the stand. I will say that. So Palladino had a lot to say. I mean, a lot. There were there were some documents that we kind of went over yesterday. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and put them on the screen now. What is wrong with my mouse? I'm going to go ahead and put a couple on the screen just so you're able to look at those as we discuss this here. Okay. And I'm going to keep going, but if you want to zoom into the screen, take a screenshot, zoom in later. These are some of the documents from 2001 and 2002, some of the memos, because it was said that Palladino, the private investigator that Robert hired to investigate, right, who had the tapes, how to get the tapes back, not to get the tapes, but to investigate the matter to help point somebody in the right direction to get them, right? He took very, very, very detailed notes, okay? Very detailed notes. Oh, Ivy, welcome to the membership. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for becoming a member. So, let me see what's going on. Everything good? Okay. So Palladino had a lot to say about Friedman, right? And some of it hasn't came up, but in one memo, I do remember he was calling the dead investigator was calling Friedman, the tape collector, a sleazy bottom feeder who whines endlessly, apparently out of the belief that being extremely annoying is a winning negotiating strategy. It's very clear they didn't like each other. It's very clear they kind of hated each other's guts because he was, you know, he was a little off the hook. You can see that in these notes that Palladino took back in 2001, 2002, but you could also hear that when he was on the stand, when we were covering him. His time on the stand is done, but yeah, you can see, let me see, these were some voicemails, and Palladino took these notes. Woman in the background, he says, the woman in the background, it says, going to the FBI tonight. The tape collector says, I told y'all not to fuck me, but I see you wanted to fuck me. So, Jack Palladino, I want y'all to keep talking in the background there. This nigga's a bitch. All this shit, blank answering machine. I just want to tell y'all, if you fuck with me, I'm going to show you how to get fucked, okay? This is Chuck, and you know who the nigga is. I told you, whatever you do, don't fuck with me. You gonna fuck me now. So now my blank don't got nothing for Christmas. So I'm going to show you when I see you. Matter of fact, get robbed. Blank, 24-hour protection for real. Because then police might be coming for him. I'm out. Said, damn. Like, I mean, he was, yeah, he took it there. These are voicemails. Imagine what he was like, actually like on the phone. You know, I can't even lie. I do believe the deceased attorney, a sleazy bottom feeder who whines endlessly, apparently out of the belief that being extremely annoying is a winning negotiating strategy. It's crazy. Here's another one. Another memo here, right? And so I kind of went over this yesterday. Feel free to take a screenshot and zoom in. I want to be a little efficient and I want to move on. So I'll leave this on the screen as I keep going. Okay. Shout out to the bishop in the building. Thank you for coming through. So the person on the stand explains that the invoice was sent from Palladino to Derrel McDavid in 2002 for services Palladino provided from August 2001 to July of 2002. Now, in August of 2001, Palladino billed McDavid for several phone conferences. Okay. So he's billing McDavid, but McDavid is doing things on R. Kelly's behest and behalf, right? And so that's where he's kind of implicated. You can't be the middleman and pretend to be oblivious to what you're the middleman for. What is your task? What is your job? How are you efficient if you don't really know what you're carrying out, what you're supposed to be getting back, why you're supposed to be getting it back, et cetera, et cetera. So other services specified in the invoice for August 23rd include traveling from Chicago to Kansas City, getting money, setting up a polygraph test, a lie detector test, etc. Nowhere in that date's itinerary is Derrel McDavid mentioned. Okay. So he's not mentioned. That don't mean he don't know what's going on. So let's get into the cross-examination of Marta Johansson, who again used to work for the deceased private investigator Jack Palladino. Okay. So as we get into cross-examination, okay? Or cross-contamination, as some of y'all like when I say cross-contamination, and I'll be saying that by mistake. So the prosecution is up for cross-examination, and they asked Johansson if they were loyal to Palladino, their former employer, and if they would say anything that could tarnish the reputation of a deceased Palladino in court. Now, Johansson does agree that they were loyal to Palladino, but says that there's nothing that they could possibly say in court that could damage Palladino's reputation. And so the prosecution, basically with that, they say that Palladino's job was to make his clients look good, but Johansson rebuts that. His job was to find the facts, even if those facts made his client look bad. And so the prosecution points out that Johansson's knowledge of what Palladino was up to on the August 2001 dates brought up by the defense is based solely on her reading the invoice records, right? She doesn't know the full extent of what was going on. She wasn't there. She works in the office shuffling those papers around. So the words on the documents don't really give her all the intel and all that. How does she know what's being whispered in Palladino's ear when she's not in those rooms, right? And so she agrees, right? She agrees and says that she has no firsthand knowledge of what occurred on those dates. She was only responsible for taking care of the files that were supposed to, reference those dates. And so now the prosecution again says that Palladino, the deceased detective, that Palladino's work was client driven. And so a priority was to make clients happy, right? And again, sometimes they're repetitive, but this is something that they went over twice in court, back to back, right? And a lot of times they ask some of the same questions in slightly, either the same or slightly different ways, just to see if they can get a different answer, to try and make it seem like, hey, I just asked you that question. I'm asking you to, they try to trip you up. And so again, they're saying, look, his work is client driven. His priority is to make his clients happy, right? She says, of course, but they're not always happy with the information that is provided to them. Okay. And so the prosecution ends up saying, for all of these reports of investigation, Mr. Palladino was charging someone money for writing these documents, right? And the person on the stand, Johansson, says sometimes yes, sometimes no. But they do clarify as they sit on the stand. It says, R. Kelly, he was definitely a paying client, though. So they're asking if Palladino got paid to draft documents. He absolutely did. Okay. And so the prosecution, again, they're pushing Johansson to admit that while they were knowledgeable of the documents that Palladino, their boss, made, that they can't be 100% certain that those documents were filled out truthfully or accurately. And Johansson agrees. They agree to that. And the prosecution concludes cross-examination there, or cross-contamination, right? And so now we get into Jennifer Bonjean, who is R. Kelly's attorney, right? Calling her own associate to testify and take the stand. All right. Monique Allen, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat or super sticker. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And Dana, I like the way you spell that. French Boom. Thank you so much for joining the membership. Welcome. And don't forget to check the membership tab for anybody who's joining the membership. Check the membership tab. There are lots of documents, a lot of stuff y'all need to catch up with. Okay. Everyone gets the stuff early backstage, sometimes 3, 4, 5 days earlier than everybody else. Right. So let's continue. R. Kelly's attorney is calling her own associate to the stand to testify. Right. And this person, her name is Haley Kulbo. I'll just call her Haley. All right. She's a paralegal in Bonjean's own law firm, right? R. Kelly's attorney's law firm. And so Haley says that discovery in this case, it was voluminous, consisting of thousands of records and other materials. Haley also says that she was the first person to lay eyes on much of this material as she was organizing it for the attorney's use. now discussing phone records obtained by federal investigators in the civil lawsuit brought by Tracy, pseudonym Tracy, against R. Kelly in 2001. R. Kelly's attorney asked if there was a date range for the calls, and there was, according to her. She says the earliest date was in May of 2000, and the latest was in April of 2001. And so that's all Bone Jean has for Haley, her own associate, to say it was a lot of paperwork. Here's the call volume. Like, here's the volume. And let's talk about 2001 and 2000. Like, okay, girl. Now, on cross-examination, the prosecution asks Haley if she knows if R. Kelly ever spoke to Tracy in 1999. Haley says she doesn't know if R. Kelly spoke to Tracy in 1999. And Haley is off of the stand, and the judge calls for a 15-minute break, right? Now, we get into McDavid. We get into McDavid taking the stand. And honestly, this is where it gets a little interesting. Homeland Security, Bone Jean's own employee, boring, very boring. Let's get into the interesting stuff. And if you haven't already taken a moment to hit thumbs up, please feel free to do so, because it's free. If you ain't got $1, $2, $4, $5, $10, just send to the Cash App. That's okay if this ain't your pay week. Donate for free and hit the thumbs up. Let's get into this other testimony, okay? Hey, thanks for letting me keep you connected and in the know with what's happening in the Black world. Don't forget to smash on that like button for support and for more Black news. All right now. Let's get into McDavid on the stand. And I hope y'all are enjoying this late night bus ride. My Discord like to call it senior abuse. Like, why are you abusing us by going live late? We either trying to stay up, or we get up early and realize we missing it, and we trying to catch the butt. All right, let's get into McDavid on the stand, okay? Again, McDavid is R. Kelly's former manager, one of his 2 other co-defendants, because there are 3 people on trial with Robert, okay? McDavid is accused of helping R. Kelly cover up the sex tapes with minors for more than a decade. This is, again, pretty much the most simplistic way to explain or describe obstruction of justice in this case with R. Kelly, right? Now, McDavid is being questioned by his own attorney. Let me tell you, McDavid is on the stand for a long time. 3 days. 3 days. We thought that the tape collector, we thought that Showtime, aka Charles Freeman, took a long time on the stand. He was there for 2 days. McDavid took 3. And I'm gonna tell you in the next video, in day 15, what the strategy was that they used, because I figured it out. Although I don't think it's gonna work. So again, direct examination. McDavid is on the stand. That's how it goes. You got direct examination, cross-examination, and then redirect examination. So McDavid is being questioned by his own attorney, and McDavid says that he currently works as a certified public accountant and that he owns an accounting firm called Winkler McDavid. He says he also owns a restaurant in Chicago and has worked in real estate as well. Okay. And so at the time McDavid met R. Kelly, he says that he owned 6 or 7 properties and that his income was already substantial. And besides R. Kelly, McDavid says his accounting firm has represented the comedian Sinbad and filmmakers, the Hughes brothers. Okay. Let me tell you something. I had to take a second when I saw Sinbad's name. I had to wipe my eyes and make sure I wasn't seeing anything, and just put him on the screen because his legacy is long and it's deep. Shout out to Sinbad. If you don't know who Sinbad is, you too damn young to be watching this video. Let me just say that, okay? Sinbad is an icon in his own right, okay? And so the Hughes brothers, right? McDavid, I don't know if he's trying to flex or his resume, is pretty impressive. The Hughes brothers, right? He said that he represented them at one point with his accounting firm. And the Hughes brothers wrote some movies that are a lot of cult classics for us, to be quite frank. We got Menace to Society, Dead Presidents, American Pimp, and the Book of Eli. I'm not familiar with From Hell. However, these were some of the things that the Hughes brothers created together, although they did have a plethora of separate projects that they worked on, not as a couple. Kind of like Chloe and Halle Bailey, and then they separate and do their solo music. But that's what's going on with McDavid, right? So I just kind of wanted to provide some context, just kind of let you know how many things, R. Kelly's circle was connected to, okay? So let's continue. McDavid said that he first heard the name R. Kelly when he was playing cards at a friend's house. Okay. He said he was playing cards at a friend's house in the late 1980s when a friend walked in saying that he had just signed an artist named R. Kelly and that he thought that R. Kelly was gonna be pretty big. And, to be clear, McDavid met Barry Hankerson first and then he met Robert. That's how that went. Barry Hankerson basically was the link to help them meet. Okay. And later on, McDavid ended up meeting Barry Hankerson, who at that time was R. Kelly's manager, in hopes of becoming R. Kelly's accountant. Because again, that's kind of like McDavid's initial area of expertise is his accounting skills. Apparently the very first words out of Robert's mouth when they met, McDavid and Robert, R. Kelly, was, "Have you heard my music?" And McDavid said, "No, I haven't." And he says R. Kelly's kind of like demeanor got a little sad and somber. R. Kelly kind of looked down to the floor as if he was a little bit disappointed. And so McDavid is like, when I met R. Kelly, he was a shy, introverted, I'm going to say kid for a lack of a better word, humble. He was just trying to get into the music business and make it. Okay. So that's a little bit on that. Okay. And McDavid said he actually began considering working for R. Kelly between 1990 and 1991. And let me see, the same day he met R. Kelly, R. Kelly basically looked over at him and was like, "So you the guy that's going to be doing my taxes, handling my money?" That's pretty much what he said. And he started working for R. Kelly like literally that same day, right? So that's that, okay? Shout out to Dana French Boone for sending the $9.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, okay? So let's see. All right. So again, he starts working as R. Kelly's accountant the very same day that they've met. At first, McDavid says that he just kept R. Kelly's taxes in order and kept track of the expenses. He says the work picked up after R. Kelly's first album, Born in the 90s, was released. Okay. So, like I said, they started warming up to one another. The extent of their initial conversation was like, literally, "You gonna be handling my money? Cool." As R. Kelly became a bona fide star, again, we covered R. Kelly's first album coming out. As R. Kelly continues to literally just rise to stardom and success, that's where he was. McDavid went from being his accountant to his business manager, handling anything that had to do with money at all, cars, houses, etc. And he said, R. Kelly would say, he would say what he wanted, and I try to fit it into what he could afford. Okay. And so McDavid is essentially saying, well, what the attorney led with, right? His attorney is like, as R. Kelly became more successful, how did your duties expand? And McDavid says, more money, more problems. Boy, this ain't no goddamn Bad Boys record. He said, more money, more problems. Boy, explain it. Asking how your duties, like, what did you do? We didn't ask you to quote a vague lyric. You know what I'm saying? What do you got going on? These people trip me out. I couldn't wait to put that in the title. I said, he did not just sit in court. Okay. You think it's a game? You think you got time to be quoting off songs? You going to jail? It's like, let's get started. So, let's continue. All right. So at this point, right now, McDavid is like, after he's coerced, not coerced, he's led to kind of say these things, right? It's like pulling teeth. He's like, I'm hiring lawyers, I'm hiring insurance brokers, I'm hiring agents, other types of professionals, and so on and so forth. So again, after R. Kelly's first solo album, 12 Play comes out. Okay. It sold over 200,000 copies. This is when McDavid says he realized that R. Kelly was finna be big. He was finna be a pretty big deal. He recalls a moment when a 12 Play song came on the radio on a channel that's normally playing country music. So he felt like that was really, really significant. So Shay said, you're going to jail. Yeah, because initially I thought that they laid out, not to ruin, too much. I did 3 days worth of research. Okay. Not to ruin too much. When I first saw the way that McDavid's attorney was laying out their defense, I said, oh, they are covering all of their bases. This is thorough. I don't believe these lies. However, it's more believable than R. Kelly's lies and implications. Now, not so much, right? But I want to know how it lands for you as you continue to listen to this testimony. So McDavid is describing R. Kelly as self-contained, and that is, he's multi-talented. He's able to write lyrics and music, as well as play the involved instruments and sing. Okay. So that's that. It's a shame R. Kelly wasted all that talent. So McDavid is saying that he eventually transitioned from being R. Kelly's accountant to being R. Kelly's business manager, which involved extra responsibilities, writing checks, paying bills, making sure the cars are insured, those types of things. He continues to describe his responsibilities with R. Kelly, along with his management of R. Kelly's 4 major accounts for bass productions, touring, publishing, and his home account. The home account being like mortgage payments, personal expenses, etc. And so McDavid describes his ballooning responsibilities as R. Kelly's fame, it increased. And as more money came in, there were a plethora of issues. He said he almost got into fights with R. Kelly over money because R. Kelly just wanted everything. It was a constant back and forth drama, is exactly what McDavid said when he was on the stand. And so despite this drama, McDavid says that he grew close to R. Kelly, eventually considering him to be his son, but adds that R. Kelly's personality changed over time. He says, I knew Robert, but over time, R. Kelly existed. As he got into superstardom, he started to act like a superstar. And so part of R. Kelly's character changed around 1994. And McDavid says that R. Kelly was becoming extremely forward with women. He was flying a lot of women in and out of town, putting a lot of women in hotels. There was just a lot of women. And so McDavid says that these women that R. Kelly associated with were grown women, not underage, to his knowledge. And that, like most superstars, his sleeping with multiple women didn't strike him as anything that was alarming. He says R. Kelly's behavior was no different than any other superstar. And so McDavid says that R. Kelly growing fame, it was also creating tension with his manager at that time, who was Barry Hankerson. We all know who Barry Hankerson is. That's Aaliyah's uncle. And so, get into this Barry Hankerson stuff. He says the more successful Robert got, the more attention he needed. And Barry Hankerson just didn't have any more attention to give. And so McDavid continues saying that R. Kelly eventually fired, right, Hankerson around 1999. After they got into a fight outside of a restaurant, they'd been arguing about the course of R. Kelly's career and who would be involved in it. And he says that Barry Hankerson eventually flipped the table. So let me get this straight. Let me get this straight. 99 and whatnot, right? Round about that time, right? He married a very young Aaliyah. You busy arguing with this man about the trajectory of his career, right? Like where his stardom will lie, instead of really just sabotaging it because of what he did to Aaliyah, right? You're not arguing with him about what he did to your niece? Because I know you had to have known. It's the people pretending to be willfully ignorant for me. And just to give you a little teaser, I shouldn't be jumping ahead like this, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I feel like y'all deserve it. It's 3:30 in the morning, okay? The defense, not the defense, in general, they request to bring Barry, and the trial's not over yet. Like to this day, this is day 14, the trial's not over yet. They try to bring Barry Hankerson into court. They request it. Stay tuned and we'll talk about that as I continue the coverage. So, because he came up so much in the testimony, specifically McDavid's testimony. You know what? It was the prosecution. It wasn't the defense that tried to bring in Barry, because McDavid spent so much time talking about Barry Hankerson on the stand. The prosecution decided to request to rebuttal with Barry Hankerson to subpoena that ass. But we'll get to that. Hold on to that nugget. Okay. So McDavid is now, he's getting into his hiring of an attorney named Jerry Margolis. Okay. And McDavid hires Jerry Margolis for Robert around about 1994. Now, McDavid says he hired this attorney Margolis because he was down to earth, as opposed to the other show business lawyers who McDavid found to be very stuck up. Okay. Now, McDavid says that R. Kelly and Margolis, they clicked right away, this attorney, around 1994. And that Margolis eventually became McDavid's friend and mentor. So this was a click, right? They bring in a new attorney. McDavid hired him on behalf of Robert. Robert clicked with him. McDavid clicked with him, became McDavid's friend and mentor, right? And he describes Margolis as one of the smartest people that he knew. McDavid says that Margolis is one of the smartest people that he knew. He was obviously smarter than I was, McDavid says, and he was a good person. So in 97, McDavid says that Tiffany Hawkins, is where she comes up, sued R. Kelly for sexual misconduct. Okay. And that he found out from Margolis that Tiffany Hawkins was pregnant with Robert's child. Not a pregnancy child. Again, Tiffany Hawkins is the first person that went public with allegations that Robert had intimate relations with her when she was a minor. Okay. So McDavid says that Margolis, who was the attorney, right? Margolis planned to file an injunction to prevent the news of this lawsuit getting out to the media, and that he brought the Chicago lawyer John Toohey on to help Margolis with this case. Like, if you got to hire all these people to help you with rumors that you call unfounded, right? Or accusations, right? You say it's all false, but you got to hire this attorney, that attorney, this private investigator, pay out over $1 million, and there's nothing illegal going on, brother. Like, I just don't get it. It doesn't. Matter of fact, I do get it, but I'm pointing out the fact that it literally doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, second attorney, right? Mm-hmm. So McDavid says that Toohey filed for the injunction, right? Only for the paternity claim to entirely disappear. Not soon after he filed the injunction. Like, okay, let's go ahead and file this injunction. And then all of a sudden, there was no more mention of the pregnancy claim rumor. We don't know what happened. Was she being truthful or not? Did she abort the child? Was it really Robert's? Questions that need answers, right? Feel free to leave your guesses down below. Or, if you're privy, there's so many different compartmentalized and separate moving parts when it comes to talking about R. Kelly. So there are some people who are experts on some people and some characters, and some Share your thoughts, whatever you've heard. I really enjoy when Chicago people hit my inbox with information because, the streets talk in Chicago more than anything because that's where a lot of this stuff took place. So let me make sure. Did I get that super chat? Yeah. So again, after the injunction was filed, the paternity claim entirely disappeared shortly after that. Okay. McDavid says that he was under the impression, based off of the fact that the paternity claim entirely disappeared, this told him that the claim was false and it was untrue. And as did R. Kelly, offered to take a paternity test. Now, if you got right, look, Robert is a guilty son of a. Now, if you got him offering to take a paternity test instead of finding all types of excuses and pulling all these strings, Okay, look at this. Miss Mary Moore's got a tape, a ring, a money sign, and a duffel bag. Okay, very relevant. Okay. But he offered to take a paternity test, right? And the claim disappeared. Now, after the paternity test case, after the paternity claim itself was dropped, the suit changed to an allegation of Robert having sex with Tiffany as a minor. And McDavid says he stopped considering anything. Listen close and stick a thumbtack in this. McDavid says because of this, because the paternity was out and the suit changed to an allegation of R. Kelly having sex with Tiffany as a minor, that told McDavid that he stopped considering anything that Tiffany said was true. He questions why she filed a lawsuit instead of going to police. Stick a thumbtack in that. Stick a thumbtack in that, okay? Now, explaining why R. Kelly chose to settle the suit with Tiffany Hawkins. He thought it was untrue, right? R. Kelly offered to take a paternity test. The paternity claim went away. However, Robert and McDavid, they all, settled with Tiffany Hawkins in the lawsuit for $250,000. That's $250,000. That's $250,000. $250,000. McDavid says even a rumor of something like this getting out could hurt your client, even if it's not true. This was all just somebody trying to get paid. Remember that. Put your thumbtack there. Put your thumbtack there. So McDavid goes on to say that Tiffany Hawkins' attorney, Susan Loggins, after Margolis questioned Tiffany Hawkins, asking, how much can I get? Right? Tiffany Hawkins asked, how much can I get? McDavid goes on to say that Tiffany Hawkins' attorney, Susan, asked, how much can I get? Right? So Tiffany's attorney asked, how much can I get? And McDavid says that Margolis offered the $250,000. Down from an initial $10 million claim. So initially they was trying to get $10 million, right? Shoot for the sky. You might catch a star. That's definitely a star. It's probably more like a comet, but I would like a comet, $250,000. But nonetheless, they wanted $10 million. They got $250,000, right? So McDavid reasons that if there was any truth to Tiffany Hawkins' claim, then her attorney wouldn't have taken $250,000 when $10 million was up for grabs. That's what he said. Which sounds kind of ignorant anyway. It sounds kind of ignorant because everybody shoots high, right? But nonetheless, McDavid goes on to say that Tiffany's attorney eventually represented multiple different women who were bringing sexual misconduct suits against R. Kelly. And that's true. Excuse me, I've covered a few. And bringing a number of what McDavid calls to be cookie cutter lawsuits. So McDavid describes Tiffany's attorney putting up ads, right? Ads, soliciting people to sue R. Kelly, which he describes as a feeding frenzy, right? A money frenzy, like an extortion party that she's literally advertising and trying to find the next person. According to what McDavid is saying, right? She's looking for people who haven't even met or experienced R. Kelly for real. Just people who are going to stick to the script that Loggins gives them. So again, he's talking about these cookie cutter lawsuits and saying that, Tiffany's attorney is putting up ads soliciting people. It's a feed and frenzy. And he says that, based off of the actions of Tiffany's attorney, it further convinced him that future lawsuits brought against R. Kelly were similarly untrue and best settled out of court. I'm going to let you know now, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. R. Kelly did enough dirt. He paid off enough money from several different women. And I always say well over $1 million, but if I sat down and did the research and did the math, it would probably be well over $2 million. He's paid it not to one person, but in general, over time to all the different people. I'm talking men, women, and whatever. He's paid out well over $1 million to shut down people who are lying. I don't think so. And, men can get away with so much more than women in the industry. So don't get me started. A rumor like that will not kill your reputation, especially if your story is consistent, right? It's not disjointed. And they're really trying to shake you down and you can prove that. But Robert, it's been 25, 30 years you've been doing this. I don't think that that's true. I think that this is convenient for him to come up with McDavid to say, here's the reason why I never thought any of these allegations were true. Based off of when the first girl came, I saw all these other girls lining up. That led me to believe that no story brought up against R. Kelly would have ever been true. He's trying to deny that he knew anything about this allegation. And it's bullcrap, right? It's bullcrap. It is. Because a huge bulk in McDavid's testimony relies heavily on his belief that the crimes against R. Kelly were bogus and that they were false. That's his story. And he's sticking to it to try to, remain innocent. Right. And so, let's continue, right? McDavid says that actually the tape collector was supposed to get $140,000 and that he was never promised $1 million. You remember when Showtime, Chuck Friedman, the tape collector was on the stand. He said he was promised $1 million. McDavid is saying that's not true. He was promised $140,000, right? So let's see. Similarly untrue and best settled out of court. So they wanted to settle with people who they're claiming are liars. Okay. Now, in comparison to what R. Kelly, to what they call liars, I'm not calling them liars. They're calling them liars, but they wanted to settle out of court. Right. In comparison to what R. Kelly was making, at that time, the payments were relatively insignificant, according to McDavid. So he's trying to, when I say he paid well over $1 million and all the different money he paid over time, McDavid is trying to trivialize that, right? Like, oh, that was insignificant to Robert. It was no big deal. Like, it was no big deal. That's what they're saying. So other than the nuisance and expense that these lawsuits were bringing, it wasn't really something that McDavid says he was worried about at the time. But he does add that one of the attorney, Margolis, was actually afraid of false rumors getting out to the media, which led to the hiring of the private investigator who is now deceased, Jack Palladino, right? So you got Jerry, you got Margolis, you got the private investigator. Eventually we paying out Showtime. Like, it's just a lot of hiring for you to be acting like there's no illicit or illegal behavior. And, in my opinion. Okay. So McDavid is saying that he met Palladino over dinner in Chicago. He says he was like a detective that you snatched out of a movie. He described him as wearing a long coat and a fedora and being extremely detail oriented. And so, they they start getting into some of the interviews that Palladino conducted on R. Kelly's behalf. And then the judge actually calls for lunch. So they call for lunch. They come back for lunch. What are you thinking at the time? Like, what are you thinking at this time? Okay. And also, not to mention, when McDavid actually touched on R. Kelly's reaching stardom, becoming more frank and upfront with women, he said Robert was just with lots of women as his stardom increased and skyrocketed. And the prosecutor said, "You're talking about adult women that you're aware of?" McDavid says, "Yes, to the best of my knowledge." Yeah. So he can't, like, without the shadow of a doubt, say all the women Robert messed with were adults. He's got to say to the best of his knowledge, because he's not sure. Either he's not sure or he's just going to pretend he's not sure, right? Because if you say with certainty that there were none and they go back and they post something, perjury ain't no joke. Not in a high profile trial like this, anyway. It is not a joke. So we're 3 hours at this point, right? We're 3 hours into the direct examination of Derrel McDavid on the stand, right? We come back from lunch, or from the 15-minute break that the judge had us on. And McDavid's attorney asked him for the first time about one of the sex tapes that were at the center of the indictment, right? His attorney asked him for the first time about one of the sex tapes at the center of the indictment. And so McDavid responds and says, in August of 2001, R. Kelly called him and said that Showtime Chuck Freeman was threatening to go to the media unless Rob paid him. Again, this is where we are with presenting Showtime, the tape collector, as an extortionist and not somebody that Robert hired to return them tapes. Okay. So McDavid says that R. Kelly, he asked R. Kelly if it was true that there was a sex tape out there of him and another woman, and R. Kelly said, "Yep." Now, listen to the terminology here. He says he asked Robert if it was true that there was another sex tape out there of him and another woman. He said R. Kelly said, "Yep." His attorney asked him, did Robert try to deny it? He said no. And McDavid said that Margolis actually said that they have to be very careful and get the tape back because even a rumor could destroy his career, right? Then you got McDavid sitting on his stand being shady towards Chuck Freeman because he did meet R. Kelly like on a merchandise type deal. Like R. Kelly was on some sort of a tour, and when he met Chuck Freeman, aka the tape collector, aka Showtime, he was selling merchandise, tour merchandise, and him and R. Kelly linked up, and him and R. Kelly had some sort of deal. People go on tour, they're selling all types of stuff, t-shirts and hats, paraphernalia, like you name it. That's what Chuck Freeman was doing at first. And so McDavid sits on this stand and calls Chuck Freeman a low-level t-shirt guy. That's really interesting because the defense kind of called him that earlier when he was on the stand. He hired you, a t-shirt guy, to get the video back. Say, oh my gosh, they shady boots.
Ooh, stay positive. Okay, I will. I had to throw a little shade. I'm shady boots.
So yeah, McDavid is like, yeah, Chuck Freeman, he's a low-level t-shirt guy. I wouldn't have hired him to shine my shoes. He was just a bad person with a bad vibe. And so he says, but R. Kelly, meanwhile, R. Kelly was on the way to being a superstar. Yeah, it's something about the way that McDavid, while he's on the stand, he's trying to clear himself for sure. But he's also kissing up to Robert. Like he is kissing up to Robert, right? And some people would even argue that R. Kelly wasn't even like into Chuck like that. Demetrius is actually the one that introduced the tape collector to Robert, which is interesting because Demetrius was allegedly the one that drew some connection between Robert and Tiffany Hawkins, and introduced Tiffany Hawkins to her attorney, who helped her successfully, sue R. Kelly in civil court for $250,000. It's a lot going on here, child. It's a lot going on here. A whole bunch. A whole bunch. Day 14. Let's see. They're bickering back and forth. They're pointing fingers. The attorney fired in 99. Let me make sure this is all the information and I didn't lose a portion of my notes. Is this the end of the testimony for the day? It may be, but let me double check. Y'all know sometimes I end these lives and there are compartments of my notes that I missed, that I didn't open up. Let me double check and make sure. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. If this is the end of the testimony, I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really great. And we're going to come back and we're going to get another day out the way. Okay. I've got 2 more days to give y'all after this and we're on it. Right. I've got yesterday to present and then I've got what actually happened today in court to present. So I have a great amount of energy. This means I probably won't get to sleep until like 7 in the morning, but you know what? It's worth it. It's the weekend. Let me make sure I've got all my notes as it pertains to this video. Let me go ahead and pay my sponsor real quick, child.
So let's see if you're really proud about it. If you've been serious about what you've been saying about wanting to support more Black-owned businesses, here's your chance. I found a spot for us to grab our hats, hoodies, affordable electronics, phone accessories, and gadgets from. It's over on edwersow.com. That's EDWERSOW.com. Grab something for your hubby, your wife. Hey, I ain't encouraging that side chick behavior, but it's just in time for the holidays. So head on over there and grab your AirPod cases, hoodies, and affordable electronics. That's edwersow.com, EDWERSOW.com. And I'll see you over there. It's time to face it, boo. Your product needs more exposure. If you want to see your ad here on my channel, be sure to shoot an email over to yt.theplainestjane@gmail.com and let's chat. But if you're new in my neighborhood here on YouTube, hey, I'm the Plainest Jane and I provide coverage and commentary on trending stories, viral events, and Black culture. I definitely appreciate you stopping through and hitting that subscribe button if you like more of my particular brand of syrup.
All right, we are back. I forgot to put on Twitter that I'm live on the bus. I just had to tweet it out. Excuse me, while we were there. That does look like it was the end of testimony. However, you know, look, the Beehive is the Beehive. The Beehive are R. Kelly supporters. I do want to show you something. This concludes the testimony for day 14 in court, but I want you to take a look at this. Remember, I tell you, the R. Kelly fans, their logic, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't hate them. However, their logic don't be making no sense. It'd be a fact there's something going on in court that's actually for their side, that's going to gear towards proving Robert right and proving, you know, somebody with some claim or accusation wrong. And they rip it to shreds. And it's like, but you want him free. Like, you know, it doesn't make any sense. Get into this, right? Can I help you? Okay, and what's that about? What's it about? Is it something important? You sure? Okay. Can it wait? Okay. I think it can wait. Yeah, I think it can wait. I think so. Yeah, it can wait. He's so cute. You make me lose my train of thought. He runs this house. Leo, get down. Get down. It's not a thank you, because it's not a question. Somebody said he says something. Yeah, he talks. He talks a lot. Just like I sit here and I talk a lot, he picked it up from me, child. He picked it up from me. But anyway, there was no way I could have a quiet cat as much as I talk on and off camera. Okay. Okay. So here's one thing I want to get into, right? there was this headline that was released. It says, R. Kelly's ex-manager tells jurors that his boss never abused minors. Okay, so this is a headline that was released, and you can see it now. It has since been changed. However, metadata doesn't lie, especially when it's posted on places like Twitter or Facebook, right? I don't have the time to explain what metadata is, but if I was to title my video incorrectly, right, while I'm live, and you share it, but I changed the title later, but you've already tweeted it out, that tweet is never, the title and the metadata on that tweet is never going to change. Me changing my title here has nothing to do with the fact that you tweeted out this video, and the metadata is just going to populate based off of whatever the original thing was. So if that makes sense. And so R. Kelly's fans decided to try to come at this reporter, because this reporter says, and this is the reporter who actually does diligently, is at the courthouse every day. They say this headline is incorrect and it does not support the Associated Press's story. R. Kelly's ex-manager did not say that Kelly never abused minors. In fact, he's still on the stand on direct examination about this very topic. This is true because what was actually said was he with adult women, or did they look to be of age to you? And he said, to my knowledge, yes. He did not say with beyond the shadow of a doubt. He did not say, I can guarantee that because I checked the IDs. He did not say. How can he say, how would McDavid be able to sit on the stand and say, Robert never abused minors? Just because I'm your manager, or just because I'm around you a lot, doesn't mean I know it's done in the dark, right? When R. Kelly, when McDavid isn't with R. Kelly, right? He doesn't know when R. Kelly is going in the bathroom to eat his boogies, not wipe his ass, or do whatever, right? So nobody's with, it was the same as the person on the stand earlier. Okay, you read these memos, but can you confirm that your employer, the deceased detective, can you confirm that he didn't have any knowledge of No, I can't. All I can say is I managed this porn and he told me it never happened. Hello? Like, that's very fucking simple. Very fucking simple to comprehend. But no, they get an ounce. They get, and I'm going to show you, just so you know I'm not exaggerating. Just so you know, I'm not making it up, right? Let's take a scroll down to these mentions, child, right? Now, I did see R. Kelly's attorney is retweeting the irresponsible headline. Yes, she did. She did retweet this. Okay. So you got a lot of R. Kelly fans. This is a twist. You can't untwist. Pay attention. LOL. You're panicking that people can read the truth. Man, are you high? Quit lying. Come on now. He said it several times. What are you watching? Stop throwing untruths into the mix. Be professional. Why are you concerned with another person's article? Focus on your own writing and your bias. Since you're clearing things up, Jason, let people know how Lisa Van Allen and others got on the stand and lied. What are you talking about? Free R. Kelly. You're a hater. How much is Turkey Neck paying you? Or are you that desperate for a friend? Just report the damn truth. Damn. Okay, so he said he never saw underage, and yeah, he repeated it a few times. Stop it. You're sickening with the hate. Look. Here's that little piece of proof. Look. Which reporter do we believe? McDavid? Minor, underage, tomato. Okay, so McDavid says that these women R. Kelly associated with were grown women, not underage, and that, like most superstars, his sleeping with multiple women didn't strike him as alarming. His behavior was no different than any other superstar. Now, at what point does this raggedy ass receipt, at what point does this mean he never had sex with minors? At what point does McDavid saying, I saw him have sex with a lot of women? At what point does that mean he never had? Do you think McDavid's eye was on Robert 24/7? Do you think McDavid never went home to have some sex of his own? Is that what you think? You think McDavid like never used the bathroom, never went out of town, never like he didn't have his eyes on him 24/7. So it's you know what, the logic, I just, you know, redundancy is annoying as hell to me. That's why I laugh at the logic of Robert's fans. I laugh for a couple minutes and then I got to move the fuck on, because it's annoying trying to help people understand that 1 + 1 is 2. It's not 11. It's not 1100. It's not 22. Baby, it's 2. 2. And you know what? To be completely honest with you, most of these people are old. And when I say old, I mean old by the standards of Robert. They're 35 and up. 35 ain't old, but it's old for Robert. Like, y'all are fucking old. He don't want you. What's all this capping getting you? It's sick. Okay? It's very sick in my opinion.
This is a sick Negro.
I just can't. Somebody said you can't argue with willfully ignorant. You know what? That's a really good point. And I'm glad you used that term, because that term comes up a little bit later. As it pertains to my analysis of the completion of McDavid's testimony, right? This is day 14, which was technically Wednesday in court. Although today is technically Friday. This is the day that McDavid finished up his testimony. And my synopsis of it, and you'll hear it later on, is that he's trying to play this willfully ignorant card. I'm just a low-level employee. I never overheard any of his conversations. Yeah, I helped him settle the lawsuits, but I didn't know anything and never believed anything about the minors, despite the fact that McDavid literally sat in the courtroom for R. Kelly. You know, he was indicted in 2002. There was, you know, in court 2008, which is when he was acquitted, but he was there. And the same way this jury right here had to watch child porn in the courtroom just to confirm, they had to watch it in the former trial earlier, his first trial in Chicago. So for you to sit there and watch R. Kelly having sex with a minor, a 14-year-old Reshona Landfair, in court, and then to continue after that and say, I had no reason to believe he ever did anything like that. When you saw the tape, but wait till we get to his excuse as to how he was in court and he saw it, but he still believed R. Kelly didn't do it. Like I said, when he first got to testifying, I said, oh, he covering his bases. He got a lot more defense than Robert. But as it kept going, ooh, baby, child. Can't argue with the willfully ignorant. Willfully ignorant, indeed it is. They said they slow as Easter, baby. Let's get into our jam and let's get out of here, because I'm going to come back and I'm going to set up this other video. It'd be dope if I could get all 3 videos out this morning, because I feel great and I have a lot of energy. I don't feel tired, but we going to pace ourselves. Okay, we're going to pace ourselves. You know, court was out on Friday. They were closed on Monday for Labor Day. They were supposed to go back on Tuesday. There were technical difficulties, so they came back on Wednesday. Let's hit our R. Kelly remix. Let's groove. And let's get out of here and get ready for the next stream. Okay? Hit thumbs up if you haven't already. And share this video with your homegirl, your homeboy, somebody that wants the nosy details and all of the syrup on Robert in this trial.
Baltimore, I can't see you. Where you at?
Yo, killing me with this. I can't help.
Robert.
I You're killing me, man. This ain't not about music. I'm trying to have a relationship with my kids, and I can't do it. Y'all just don't want to believe the truth. You don't want to believe it.
At this point, we briefly pause the interview to give Kelly a moment.
Man, y'all killing me with this. Y'all killing me with this. Y'all killing me with this. Y'all killing me. Y'all trying to kill me. Y'all killing me with this. Y'all killing me with this. Y'all killing me with this. Y'all killing me with killing me, man. Trying to kill me. I hope this camera keep going. Stupid R. Kelly. Fight for my life. Stupid R. Kelly. Do it. Stupid R. Kelly. Fight for my life. Stupid R. Kelly. And do it 30 years.
I'm gonna need an extended version. I'm gonna have to sit here and I'm gonna have to mix and master and get my little. I need an extended version. That ain't long enough. That's just a minute and a half. Come on now. What's really going on? That thing slap. Okay. Nonetheless, whoo, we talk about the logic or the lack thereof as it pertains to the P-High baby. It's the same as Robert's logic. He ain't got no logic. He had a little bit in one moment, but he thought he was invincible, which, you know, sometimes your ego, it does a bit too much. And you start thinking that your ego is logical, and it's not. Your ego is inflated and you're not making any sense. You don't have to be able to read and write to have common sense. And you know, Robert just felt like being a superstar. He wasn't going to be held accountable because he found ways to get off for it before. But karma came back round, baby. And it ain't sweet. That boomerang is back to get its stuff. There was a motion filed this morning. Y'all remember when R. Kelly, and if you're a channel member, you already know because it's backstage. You know what? I missed the super chat. As I look for this super chat, there was a motion filed this morning. If you're a channel member, don't forget to go backstage and check out all the exclusive documents. There are about 3 or 4 documents that I haven't brought up here yet because I've got 2 more days to present. If you want to get ahead and you just want to be nosy, go look backstage on your members only tab. It's available for all members, so it's not on the middle or top floor to the point where you won't be able to see it. Miss Tree Live, thank you so much for the 10. I think that's Canada currency. Thank you so much for the super chat, and thank you for being a channel member. I appreciate you so much. I'll leave you with this. It's going to take me about 10 minutes to, no less than 10 minutes to set up the next stream, and I'm gonna just go live. There's a motion that was passed this morning as it pertains to Robert. You remember the $27,000 that Robert had seized by the government? They froze his monies. Okay. There was a motion filed about, matter of fact, there were 2 pieces of information that were filed as it pertains to that. We're going to get into that coming up. I'm going to leave y'all with that. I'm going to see y'all in about 10 minutes. I'm coming live right again. If you're going to bed, good night. I'll catch you in the next one, or I'll catch you as you watch the replays tomorrow. If you up because you drive and you at work, whatever, we in this, right? I saw some people earlier saying, thank you, Jane, for the all-nighter. You're welcome. I rested well yesterday because I ended the live at a decent time. So I do have a lot of energy. Diva Time, thank you so much for the 149 super chat, or super sticker rather, and thank you for becoming a member as well. Question here, it says, if he would have been more educated, you think he had the same proclivity? You know what? I think that that's a matter of self-control. I don't think it really has anything to do with the knowledge. Robert knew he was doing something wrong because he went through, you know, a really extensive effort to try to hide it. And, you know, like I said, when your ego is inflated, you push logic to the side and you think that your ego is operating from a place that is in your best interest. And it's not, you know. R. Kelly was just that narcissistic. Sometimes it doesn't matter. I know some very smart narcs that'll still get in their way because they just, it's that ego. They think that their karma is never going to catch up with them. So, you know, I mean, I know some really, really, really smart ones. And I know some dumb ones too. And they, you know, they make similar mistakes. So it's a matter of if they want to get help or if they feel like I don't need help because I can get away with this. I can pay it away. I can throw money at it, her, them, whoever. So I don't believe that R. Kelly actually being literate, being able to read and write beyond the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th grade level, I don't think that that would have curbed his sexual deviancy. And I don't think it would have curbed it. You know, I mean, like, this man was getting shots to curb it at the end of the day. Like no. The easy answer to your question is no. I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, illiterate people can be smart. That's the thing. To get away with something like that for over 20 years, because you can be slick but stupid. And like I was saying yesterday, you can have book smarts and not be street smart. You can have street smarts and not be book smart. It doesn't mean that you won't be. And sometimes when you lack in some area, there's another area where you're overcompensating for that. Where, you know, you have other skills and areas of expertise that are more heightened, right? So that's the thing. But if you don't have the desire to really get help or self-control, and somebody, it's not like Robert was a poor man living on the streets, and I'm not excusing poor, right, pedophiles, but Robert, if he really wanted to get help and talk through his childhood trauma, right, he was molested by his sister. He was molested by the next door neighbor who was babysitting him. His mother took a damn muddy settlement for it just to get her to not testify. Robert had way more. If he had over $1 million to pay out for settlements, he could have paid to talk to somebody and to try to work through his trauma. He didn't want to. You know how in the remix you hear him say, you don't want to believe it. You didn't want to believe that your karma was going to catch up to you or that you could really get help. Robert could have got better help than you or I would have ever been able to get, because we just regular people. Robert was a millionaire, okay? Like, I mean, the resources, the access, the visibility, the reach. His therapist would have been on a whole nother level than you and I's regular ass therapists in our regular ass tax brackets. He could have got help. He didn't want the help. Robert didn't even want help for herpes. Not that you can, the type of herpes that he had, you can't cure. But he just felt like, fuck it, I'm famous and I'm going to keep spreading it to these people. Who cares? Am I going to die tomorrow? No. Am I going to go to jail tomorrow? No. So Robert wasn't the type that wanted any help. He wanted to do what he wanted to do and felt like if there was any severe trouble that came behind it, I can just pay it away. Robert was making well over $30 million some years. So, you know, I don't think that would have, do I think pedophiles can be helped? I think there's a difference between pedophiles being helped and pedophiles being trusted, right? I feel like if a pedophile really wants help and they really want to try to make a change, if that urge is really there for them to really get help and they really know it's wrong and they know they want to stop because they know they're causing harm, I do believe that they can be helped. Is it a permanent help? Is it a temporary help? Is it going to last for a month or, you know, the time frame, the interim of rehabilitation? That's a whole nother thing. And it depends on so many different variables. However, I think it's like anything is possible. It's no different than somebody that want to stop smoking or stop drinking. They may say, oh, this addiction is something that controls me. But there's some people who they just decide one day, I'm going to get help and I'm tired of this thing ruling my life. I'm tired of being judged for it. I'm tired of being condemned for it. I'm tired of the punishments and the karma that comes with it. I'm going to get help. Doesn't mean the help, you know, it's going to last forever. No, the difference is you getting help doesn't mean that you're going to be trusted by the community. You can say, I used to be a pedophile. That was 7 years ago. I'm different now. It doesn't mean people won't trust you. But who am I to say you haven't done it if I'm not living your life? And who am I to not congratulate you if you've really turned another cheek? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look you in the eye and say, oh, that's dope that you took that brave step forward and you knew that that was wrong. I still would never leave a fucking kid around you. Like, last thing you want to do when somebody is actually taking steps towards changing a really deep, dark, pattern or behavior is say, you're fucking lying. You can't, you're always going to be that way, you know? So I do think that there is a possibility based on the desire. If the desire is strong enough, if they really want to do it, if they have the discipline enough to do it, I think it's possible. That don't mean that anybody should leave their kids around them, though. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't. But who am I to say? Because if you say that they can't be helped, then no one will offer help, right? No one will try to help pedophiles understand you shouldn't be doing this. Go fuck some grown women, right? no one's going to sit down and spend the time to at least try to help him. And even if you try to help him, even if you try to help him, there could be 1 or 2 people you saving from being assaulted. 1 or 2 people you're saving from being raped from that. So who's to say that the real professionals who are equipped to assist in the systems to help rehabilitate people like that with sickness, because that's a sickness. It's disgusting. It's no different than smoking, drink. It's a sickness. Gambling addictions and what, it's a sickness. If we were to take on the thought that they can't be helped at all, then no one will be willing to help. And no one will be able to even alleviate or decrease the amount of assaults happening out here. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Even if you try to rehabilitate someone and it only lasts a year, think about how many sexual assaults you prevented from happening that year, even if it doesn't stick, right? Because it's like a medicine. You can start taking your medicine, but once you stop taking your medicine and being diligent enough, you're going to fall right back into that addiction, whether it's a sexual addiction, a minor addiction, this addiction. I say if they're willing and there are professionals that feel like let's exercise this practice to try to stop people from touching kids. Who am I to say professionals shouldn't take time to try to rehabilitate and get people to stop causing that type of abuse to kids? You know what I mean? I say try it. If there's a pedophile who really wants to be rehabilitated, go ahead. If there's a professional that's willing to take on that type of person that's got the education and all that, I say do it. I'm not just going to say no and shut the whole notion down. You know? I do think that some people can't be helped because they don't want to be helped. But that's based off of them not even desiring to have that discipline, which is Robert. But, you know, somebody say he loves the guys a little better. Child. You know, the male sex tape comes up a little bit later. Okay? The sex tape with the guy comes up a little bit later. I don't think that Robert is ultimately satisfied with grown women. He's been with a few grown women. You know, but sometimes people are just disposable. And I think that that's how Robert looked at his wife and any of the people who were, you know, over 20 that he dealt with. Yeah. And don't let me take away. They say typically sex offenders always reoffend. They don't change. I agree, you know. But like I said, if they get help, right, and they feel like for a month they're not going, and they relapse, there could be at least 1 or 2 kids you're saving in that interim of just entertaining their idea of rehabilitation. So I wouldn't shut that down. But however, I don't think that they should be trusted around kids though. Still, leave the door open. Leave the door open for them to get help if they want it. If they're willing and there's a professional willing, get it, you know? So yeah. Yeah, I do. Yeah, they definitely typically reoffend. I know that for a fact. But I don't want to be closed-minded and say none of them ever in the world can ever be helped. Addictions and sicknesses are just that. But if, you know, yeah, that's that. I'll stop there. I need to set up the next live because I still got some energy. Okay? I've still got some energy. We are going to come back and do the next live for day 15, which was technically yesterday, which was technically Thursday. Even though it's 4 a.m, I'm still talking like it's Friday. So y'all gonna have to deal with that. I love y'all so much. If you haven't already taken a moment to subscribe to the channel, make sure you do so. I typically open the phone lines, but I had too much information to get out. By the time I get to the last show, it may or may not be this morning, but I do plan on opening the phone lines. But I definitely can't do it in these shows when I have another show to follow because I'm kind of backed up on information that I need to disperse to you all. Layla, you just woke up? Awesome. Keep refreshing the page because in 10 minutes, we are going to be back. We are going to be back. And, you know, let me be clear. If you got somebody wondering what a teenager is, I feel like they can't be helped. I'm not going to put a blanket statement on all of them. But, you know, when you got somebody asking Robert, do you like teenage girls? And Robert say, when you say teenage, how old are we talking? You can't be fucking helped, because the definition of a teenager is very fucking clear. And if you were just messing with 19-year-olds, it'd be something different, child. Let's hit the clip, okay? Hit thumbs up, drop some pancakes. Let's hit the clip and let's get out of here.
Do you like teenage girls?
When you say teenage, how are we talking?
Girls who are teenagers.
Rolex on your wrist, a plain giant.
For someone to come home with me, all you have to do is be
Let me tell you a comment that somebody left on the page. They said, you know, that clip of him saying all you gotta do is be 18. It's like, you know, did he really mean that? Or are y'all listening right? They was like, what he really meant was all you gotta do is be 18, like a teenager. Damn. Nah, for real, because who the hell goes to perform and says, as a grown man, all you gotta do is be 18, knowing that you only really want 15 to 17 to 18. You got your double entendre going on. You ain't really mean 18. You meant all they need to do is be 18 ager. That's what you meant. That's what you meant. You nasty son of a gun. You nasty. You know, he's way out of pocket. Just so out of pocket. Like,
That's not funny. That's mean.
Anybody going cross stage with a sign like that that's literally looking for 18-year-olds, lock them up. She's been locked up a long time ago. Who does that? Who does that?
Who does that? Yeah. Anyway, so I don't want to focus off that bad energy. I don't want to focus off those people who I care nothing about. As I was saying, you guys.
My man Caldwell always bring me up when I'm feeling triggered. All I need is a little bit of him to make me laugh and calm me down. I love y'all so much. Y'all stay beautiful, black, and blessed until the next video. Make sure you hit thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Turn on all notifications. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Make sure you switch it to all, not some, so that you always get notified. I'll be back in about 10 minutes or less. We're getting into more information. I'm on a roll. I'm on a roll. This is a bit of a marathon this evening. I love you all so much, and I'm going to catch y'all in 10 to 15 minutes. Deuces.
But that's it. If you want to catch more of my commentary on Black culture or vital and trending information, be sure to subscribe by hitting that little circle in the middle of the screen, or I'll catch you in one of these rectangles to the right in another video. I'll see you there.